Richard Harrison's heart stopped the moment he stepped into his kitchen. There, on her hands and knees, was his 5-year-old daughter Jenny, scrubbing the marble floor with a worn rag. Her small fingers were wrapped in blood-stained bandages, and tears streamed down her pale cheeks. Standing over her with a wooden spoon clutched in her hand was Mrs. Anderson, the woman he had trusted with his daughter's care for the past 6 months. "I said scrub harder." Mrs. Anderson's voice cracked like a whip. "This floor better shine, you lazy little brat. What is going on here?" Richard's voice came out as barely a whisper, his briefcase slipping from his fingers and hitting the floor with a thunderous crash. Mrs. Anderson spun around, her dark eyes wide with shock. The wooden spoon clattered to the counter as her expression shifted from fury to a practiced smile in less than a heartbeat. "Mr. Harrison, you're home early. I was just teaching Jenny some responsibility. You know how children can be, always making messes." Richard couldn't move. His daughter was wearing a plain gray dress he had never seen before, nothing like the colorful clothes that filled her closet. Her blonde hair, usually brushed and tied with ribbons, hung in tangled strands around her face. But it was her eyes that shattered him. Those blue eyes that once sparkled with joy now held nothing but terror. "Daddy!" Jenny's voice was so small, so broken. She scrambled to her feet, swaying slightly, and Richard finally found his legs. He rushed forward and scooped her up, feeling how light she was, lighter than she should be. "What did you do to her?" He turned to Mrs. Anderson, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. "What did you do to my daughter?" Mrs. Anderson straightened her uniform, her composure returning with practiced ease. "Mr. Harrison, I understand this looks concerning, but the child has been terribly misbehaved lately. She spilled juice all over this kitchen floor this morning and refused to clean it up. I was simply teaching her that actions have consequences. Surely you don't want to raise a spoiled child who thinks she's above honest work. She's 5 years old." Richard's shout echoed through the kitchen. Jenny flinched in his arms, and he immediately softened his voice, pressing his lips to her forehead. "It's okay, baby. Daddy's here now. Please don't send me away," Jenny whispered against his chest. "I'll be good, Daddy. I promise I'll be good. I'll scrub better. I'll work harder. Please don't send me to boarding school." Richard pulled back to look at his daughter's face. "Boarding school? Jenny, what are you talking about?" "Mrs. Anderson said if I told you, you'd send me far away where I'd never see you again." The words tumbled out between sobs. "She said you don't want a bad daughter. She said I have to work hard to make you proud." The kitchen door swung open, and Maria, one of the younger maids, rushed in. Her face was flushed, her hands twisted in her apron. "Mr. Harrison, I can't stay quiet anymore. Mrs. Anderson has been hurting Jenny for months. We all saw it, but she threatened to fire us if we said anything." "Maria, you're fired." Mrs. Anderson's mask cracked completely, her voice rising to a screech. "How dare you spread lies about me? I've worked in this house for 15 years. Lies." Maria's voice shook, but she stood her ground. "I've watched you slap that little girl. I've seen you lock her in the storage room. I've heard you call her terrible names when Mr. Harrison wasn't home. Just last week, you made her clean the bathrooms with her bare hands until they bled." Richard looked down at Jenny's bandaged fingers, bile rising in his throat. "Is this true? Jenny? Baby, is this true?" Jenny nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I tried to be good. I tried so hard." "You have nothing to be sorry for." Richard's voice broke. He turned to Mrs. Anderson, and the fury in his eyes made her step back. "How long? How long have you been doing this to my daughter?" Mrs. Anderson's face twisted with bitterness. "You want to know the truth? Fine. I've been teaching her what the real world is like. Do you know what it's like to watch you shower this child with everything while my own children struggled? While I worked myself to the bone cleaning up after your perfect little family. Your wife never noticed me. You never noticed me. I was just the help, invisible, unimportant. So you tortured a 5-year-old child?" Richard's voice was deadly quiet now. You hurt an innocent little girl because of your resentment toward me? I didn't torture her. I disciplined her. I made her strong. Mrs. Anderson's voice took on a self-righteous tone. She needed to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her. That money doesn't make you special. Your wife spoiled her rotten. And after she died, someone had to teach Jenny the value of hard work. By making her scrub floors? By beating her? By starving her? Richard's voice rose with each question. He could feel Jenny trembling in his arms. Maria, call the police. Now. You can't do this. Mrs. Anderson lunged forward, but Richard stepped back, shielding Jenny with his body. I've given years of my life to this family. You can't just throw me away. You abused my daughter. You're lucky I'm not handling this myself. Richard pulled out his phone with his free hand, keeping Jenny pressed against his chest. Detective Morrison? It's Richard Harrison. I need you at my house immediately. I'm reporting child abuse and assault. Mrs. Anderson's face went pale. Richard, please. I'm sorry. I went too far, I know that now. But think about my children. Think about what this will do to them if their mother goes to jail. You should have thought about your children before you decided to hurt mine. Richard's voice was ice. Jenny, close your eyes, sweetheart. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Richard watched as they led Mrs. Anderson away in handcuffs, her protests echoing down the driveway. Jenny never looked up from where she had buried her face in his shoulder. After the police left, Richard carried Jenny upstairs. Maria followed, wringing her hands. Mr. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner. I should have protected her. You spoke up when it mattered. Richard's voice was hoarse. That took courage. Thank you, Maria. He took Jenny to her bedroom, the princess-themed room that she clearly hadn't slept in for months. Dust covered the toys, and the bed was made perfectly, untouched. Where have you been sleeping, baby? In the storage room. Jenny's voice was barely audible. Mrs. Anderson said, I didn't deserve a pretty room until I learned to be grateful. Richard sank onto the bed, still holding his daughter. The weight of his failure crushed down on him. I'm so sorry, Jenny. I should have been here. I should have noticed. I was so caught up in work, in trying to keep everything running after your mommy died, that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. Are you mad at me? Jenny asked, her small hand clutching his shirt. Mad at you? No, sweetheart. Never. I'm mad at myself. Richard gently unwrapped the bandages on her fingers, his jaw clenching at the cuts and bruises. I'm going to take care of you now. Promise. No more late nights at the office. No more leaving you with people I should have watched more carefully. From now on, you're my priority. But your work is important. Jenny looked up at him with those heartbreaking blue eyes. Mrs. Anderson said you work because you don't want to be with me. She said I remind you too much of mommy and that makes you sad. Richard felt tears streaming down his own face. That's not true. Not even a little bit. Yes, you remind me of your mother, but that makes me happy, not sad. You're the best part of her that I still have. I love you more than anything in this world. Jenny, I'm so sorry I didn't show you that enough. Over the next few weeks, Richard transformed his entire life. He hired a new, carefully vetted nanny who came with impeccable references and agreed to regular check-ins. He installed cameras throughout the house, something he realized he should have done long ago. Most importantly, he stepped back from his company's daily operations, working from home and making sure he was present for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. Jenny started seeing a child therapist twice a week. Dr. Martinez was patient and kind, helping Jenny process the trauma she had endured. Richard sat in on some sessions, learning how to help his daughter heal. One evening, about a month after Mrs. Anderson's arrest, Richard was tucking Jenny into bed when she spoke. Daddy, I had a good day today. It was the first time she had said those words since everything happened. Richard felt his throat tighten. Yeah? Tell me about it. Maria made my favorite pancakes. We played in the garden. You read me 3 stories. Jenny smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. And you're here. I'll always be here now, princess. That's a promise. Richard smoothed her hair back from her forehead. Sweet dreams. Daddy. Jenny's voice stopped him at the door. I love you. I love you too, baby girl. More than all the stars in the sky. If the story touched your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that matter. Drop a comment below telling us what you think Richard should do next to help Jenny heal. We read every single comment. 3 months later, Richard stood in a courtroom watching as the judge sent Mrs. Anderson to 5 years in prison for child abuse and assault. Jenny wasn't there. Dr. Martinez had advised against it, and Richard agreed. His daughter didn't need to see that woman ever again. Outside the courthouse, Richard spoke briefly to the press. I'm speaking today not as a billionaire or a CEO, but as a father who failed his daughter. I was so consumed with work and grief that I didn't see the abuse happening in my own home. I'm sharing our story because I know we're not alone. There are other children suffering in silence, too afraid to speak up. If you suspect a child is being abused, say something. Don't wait. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the voice that child needs. That evening, Richard and Jenny sat in the garden, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. Jenny was healthier now, her cheeks rosy and her eyes bright. She still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at sudden movements, but she was healing. They both were. Daddy, can I ask you something? Jenny leaned against his shoulder. Anything, sweetheart. Why was Mrs. Anderson so mean to me? Richard had been dreading this question, but Dr. Martinez had prepared him for it. Sometimes hurt people hurt other people. Mrs. Anderson had pain in her heart, and instead of dealing with it the right way, she took it out on someone smaller and more vulnerable. That doesn't make what she did okay. Nothing makes it okay. But it helps to understand that her cruelty wasn't about you. You didn't deserve it. You're wonderful just as you are. Jenny was quiet for a moment. I feel sad for her sometimes. Is that weird? No, baby. That means you have a kind heart. Don't ever lose that. Richard kissed the top of her head. But remember, having compassion for someone doesn't mean you have to forgive them or let them hurt you again. I know. Jenny picked a blade of grass and twirled it between her fingers. I like our life better now. Even though we have less fancy dinners and you can't buy me as many toys, I like that you're here. Me too, princess. Me too. Maria appeared on the porch, smiling. Dinner's ready. I made spaghetti. Race you inside. Jenny jumped up and ran toward the house, her laughter ringing out across the lawn. Richard watched her go, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. He had almost lost her, not to death but to his own negligence. But they had been given a second chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. As he walked toward the house, toward the light and warmth and laughter inside, Richard made a silent promise to his late wife. I've got her, Sarah. I won't let you down again. Inside, Jenny was already at the table, chattering excitedly to Maria about a butterfly she had seen that afternoon. Richard sat down beside her, and for the first time in months, his home felt whole again. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Healing never was. But they would walk it together, father and daughter, finding their way back to joy one day at a time. If our story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. Together, we can raise awareness about child abuse and help protect the innocent. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you see something, say something. Your voice could save a life.